I'm taking a master class from the filmmaker James Cameron.
When I started out, I was working as a truck driver, didn't have much spare cash, certainly couldn't afford film school, but all you have to do is pick up a camera and start shooting something with the intention of making a film, and you're a filmmaker. And I think it's the duty of filmmakers that have been down the roadways to turn around and say, all right, there's a landmine over here, there's a landmine over here, don't step on it, so why not share that? I'm James Cameron, and this is my masterclass.
Wow. It's pretty amazing when you get to shadow and learn from someone who's been where you want to go. I hope you see the parallels. Welcome to another episode of Scotomaville. And in this episode, we're going to talk about stories. And I don't mean storytelling. I mean the stories you have built your life around.
Right? The stories that we've been told and the stories we tell ourselves. Oh, come on. You'll remember that I introduced in Volume 1 the sleeves illusion. I fully believe that storytelling is a superpower. It actually has command over at least early AI. I mean, think of it. You immediately know the difference between a runny nose and smelly feet. Think about it. Runny nose, smelly feet. AI has to be taught that. So you can use words, as the media and much of the internet does, to persuade, mislead, obscure, bloviate. I mean, there's a bunch of words. You see, highly emotional stories move us away from rational thinking and get us to synchronize with the storyteller. Research has demonstrated that the brain between the storyteller and the listener synchronize. You see, they use fMRI to scan between the two people, and that communication bridge is actually, you can see it visually. And so our brains have evolved in order for us to be warned. Don't step on this, don't go there, beware. And that's both very useful and very much abused. You see, we choose which stories we want to listen to. Those go into our head. Those form our basis of our beliefs. And as they circulate and are recalled and played on again and again and again, they become our attitudes. And then we act on that. That becomes our behaviors. And in order to stop that cycle, we've got to have awareness of what those stories are that have influenced us so much. For several years, I commuted to my workplace and read on that bus 50 volumes of the Harvard classics. They filled my mind with all kinds of ideas that represented some of the best of human thinking, equal to a degree from Harvard. Some of the stories that I appreciated the most were from Volume 17 on folklore and fable. Right? That was Aesop's, Grimm, Anderson, particularly a lot of tales with morals and consequences. The stories we tell ourselves come from the stories that we were told. One of the most influential that came to mind right away for me was the cracked pot. I read this story in Chicken Soup for the Unsinkable Soul sometime around 1999. And it made a very big impression on me. A water bearer in India had 2 large pots, each hung on each end of a pole, which he carried across his neck. One of the pots had a crack in it, and while the other pot was perfect and always delivered a full portion of water at the end of the long walk from the stream to the master's house, the cracked pot arrived only half full. For a full 2 years, this went on daily, with the bearer delivering only 1.5 pots full of water in his master's house. Of course, the perfect pot was proud of its accomplishments, but the poor cracked pot was ashamed of its own imperfections and miserable that it was able to accomplish only half of what it had been made to do. After 2 years of what it perceived to be a bitter failure, it spoke to the water bearer one day by the stream. "I am ashamed of myself, and I want to apologize to you." "Why?" asked the bearer. "What are you ashamed of?" "I have been able for these past 2 years to deliver only half my load because this crack in my side causes water to leak out all the way back to your master's house. Because of my flaws, you have to do all this work, and you don't get full value for your efforts," the pot said. The water bearer felt sorry for the old cracked pot, and in his compassion he said, "As we return to the master's house, I want you to notice the beautiful flowers along the path." Indeed, as they went up the hill, the old cracked pot took notice of the sun warming the beautiful wild flowers on the side of the path, and this cheered it some. But at the end of the trail, it still felt bad because it had leaked out half its load, and so again it apologized to the bearer for its failure. The bearer said to the pot, "Did you notice that there were flowers only on your side of the path, but not on the other pot's side? That's because I have always known about your flaw, and I took advantage of it. I planted flower seeds on your side of the path, and every day while we walk back from the stream, you've watered them. For 2 years I have been able to pick these beautiful flowers to decorate my master's table. Without you being just the way you are, he would not have this beauty to grace his house." I recognized the scotoma that the cracked pot had in my own thinking. I had felt most of my life shamed by my origins, by my illegitimacy, and by those that were in authority that had spoken harsh words or criticized, condemned, and planted seeds in my belief system that I was not eligible, not worthy, not one of them, not credible. And so when I ran into challenges, I tended to shy or pull back instead of finding the good in it. Oh, come on. It's probably going to take you several iterations, several different adjustments, just to be able to get the camera at an angle that's pleasing, that's going to be firmly attached, and it has to fall off and fail, and you got to give a contingency for that. Getting the composition the way you want, having the cameras rolling with proper amount of, exposure and color, and being able to take numerous takes of the same thing. The Tale of Two Shoe Salesmen in Africa. Once upon a time, a shoe company sent 2 salesmen to Africa to determine the market potential for their products. One salesman was sent to the east coast of Africa, while the other salesman was sent to the west coast of Africa. Both the salesmen completed a basic survey of the target market and called back to the office. The salesman sent to the east coast of Africa reported, "No one here wears any shoes. There's no market for us here." The other salesman sent a message, "No one here wears any shoes. There is a huge market for us. Send inventory fast." So that was the first time, about 3 decades ago, that I had heard a story, glass half full, glass half empty, depending on your point of view. And to show that life is far more complicated than that. You'll find one of these stories in Google, the rest of from Blogspot. So the occasional CEO. Now that same story told from the perspective of a corporate chief executive officer. So he goes through and tells the story, and then he says the rest of the story. I had a chance to read a copy of the manuscript sent me by a friend who works at the museum. Here is the rest of this classic story, captured by the daughter of one salesman. For privacy's sake, blah, blah. And so the basic idea that the pessimist went back to the factory and made a fortune selling supplies and multiple lines of product to the optimist, who tried to sell shoes and failed, and suntan lotion and glasses and sandals and hats, and kept iterating and iterating and iterating and made a living. But the CEO branched out with several lines of product that he supplied and several different continents, and became a very successful, very rich person. And so the story that this person wants to say is, intrapreneurs are more valuable than entrepreneurs, and that simply taking a risk for risk's sake is not necessary for success. And so you get completely 2 different points of view, which is what I'm saying with triangulation. And so if you marry an optimist like Angelina, and then she's the CEO, hang on, because you are going for a ride. Kevin Berg is the author of Created for Excellence and Created to Win. He was an early client of Angelina and I in Tacoma, and he would come over evenings to work on his website with us. He shared one of his experiences as a young man that made a big impact on me. You see, he had won a goldfish at the fair during summer break in school, and after taking it home and becoming, kid friends, he had to go to camp. And so he didn't want to leave his goldfish orphaned. So grabbed the bowl and off he went to summer camp. There were lots of things for the kids to do, and he couldn't take that goldfish to all of the different adventures and events, etc. But the camp happened to have a lake and a dock. And he got the idea that he could let that goldfish go in a big pond. What a great idea. He would liberate that goldfish and set it out of that bowl that it was outgrowing So he carried that goldfish proudly down to the dock and sat down with his feet, bare feet sticking in the water, and leaned over and carefully poured the goldfish into the pond. To his horror, within moments, that goldfish was swimming around in circles, not going out into the lake. He tried to, with his shadow, and shoo it and all that, and sure enough, a largemouth bass saw it as easy dinner. No more goldfish. What? Everything he had dreamed of doing, being the liberator, was turned upside down by the reality of having put that inexperienced and naive goldfish that was just going around and around and doing the same old thing. And Kevin shared that story, and we were like, because you can imagine that no matter how much you want to help someone, if they're not ready and willing to go outside of their comfort of that goldfish bolt, they're just becoming easy prey in the world for someone. And so the idea of expanding the internet and allowing everyone to have access to everyone, that's not necessarily a good thing in the real world. I had to learn that lesson the hard way on several projects that we took on over the following decades. The point of this episode on storytelling is for me to communicate to you that being aware of the stories that you've heard, that have resonated with you, that have become part of your identity or your belief system, those stories are really influential. You see, they become part of our attitudes, and our attitudes dictate what we pay attention to. And so confirmation bias and all the other biases can work with us as a superpower or as kryptonite. You see, they can lead us to recognize opportunities for the cup to be half full, or they can be kryptonite and immobilize us, prevent us from seeing, as in the game of hoppers, those opportunities that present themselves. Becoming aware of those stories and then understanding what meaning they have is really important, because then you can discipline yourself on what stories you let in and the stories you tell. Recognizing your library, right, is really important, because while you're creating your own corpus, while you're telling your journey in your journal, you'll be able to look back and see progress made in a reasonable amount of time through those. You see, those stories tend to set milestones through expectations, through ambition, or the lack of. And so you'll be able to choose the progress you make based on the expectations you have for yourself, based on the stories you believe, the attitudes you develop, and then the behaviors you reinforce. When you run up against challenges, right? The obstacle is the way. What the heck's going on with my phone? Man, Android update. What? Oh, give me a break. This is wacko.
I get it. Windows is going to steal all my resources to add some new features.
called an amygdala hijacking. I'm like, I had in my mind what I wanted to share. Ugh. Okay, maybe I need a break. Half full, half full.
Android, Siri, Alexa.
What?
Thanks, I'm in.
Angelina, did you hear that? Oh, no. This is so frustrating.
Daniel, take a break. I got this.
Oh my gosh, this is craziness. Angelina, I think Faye is back. Hey, Angelina, can I need some diffuse time.
GPS signal loss. Daniel, I strongly recommend you turn around immediately. Daniel? Daniel? Angelina? Okay, I got this.
Good grief, it's getting pretty dark in here.
It's good grief, Daniel.
Okay, the videos and the books are ready.
And now, so are you. Did I just walk in?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, another
Oh.
one. All right. Yeah, you're getting it. So that was a good move.
Yeah, go on. Back.
So that's called a scotoma.
Okay.
That's a blind spot. This is an illusion.
Yes.
It's just a simple illusion. But when I tell an emotional story, our brains connect up and I can mislead you. I can guide you down a pathway that's not true. The way it works is that our brains are tuned to protect our body. Our brain goes, that sounds important. Don't the hell step on this thing, it will blow up on you.
Y'all can move a little. I've got a video going on right now. So tell me, three guys and a flag.
You know, it's
How's
kind
that?
of must be what a homecoming was to some people. I mean, when you exchange deeply felt values with another person that served their country so that others could have freedom, we innately understand, one, the bond that we have, two, the sacrifice, three, the value to everyone else. And yet inside of our wounds, inside of that deep scar, is this incredible joy and reward if the story is told. It's, as I said before, it's storytelling is our superpower and our kryptonite.